Whether you're a watcher from the very beginning or you're a brand new viewer, I want to help you find something great to read and experience. Hi, my name is August and welcome to the channel. I cover anime visual novels, and throughout this 2020 year, I reviewed over a lot of them. Now, while it is a little bit early, I wanted to wrap up this year by giving you my recommendations on which visual novels are the best of the best and which ones in particular may pique your interest. And how will I do so, you may ask? Through a retrospective tier list containing every single visual novel I've covered this year. Every single visual novel I will showcase here, I've done an in-depth review of, covering characters, narrative, production value, and overall experience. And links to their specific reviews are in the description down below. But in this video, I'm going to go through each visual novel, give you my quick thoughts on it, any brutal opinions I have of the visual novel, as well as how it stacks up against the rest of the list. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the rating systems of the tier list. In this tier list, S's are my top picks, the best of the best, and a must read for anyone looking for a good read. The further down the list we go, the visual novel drops in overall quality and reading experience. Once we get through the initial run through, we'll get one last look as a whole and make changes if needed. And finally, I'll give out some awards to some honorable mentions that, while may not be high in the list, are strong in their respective fields. Of course, this is my opinionated tier list, and you are free to agree and disagree on this. If you have any differing opinions on any of these visual novels, I would love to hear them. But at the end of the day, I want to help you find something great to read and experience. And with that, let's begin. Alright, so first on the list we have 9 Episode 1. 9 Episode 1 is an alright start to the series. Miyako was decent as a starting heroine, however, Volume 1 felt too much like a prologue to the series and had to spend a majority time introducing the plot elements. As a result, Miyako's development I thought was just a bit watered down, and overall it just affected my experience and kind of left me on a bad taste of wanting more, but by itself was just kind of meh. So, if I were to put 9 Volume 1, I would probably put that at a C. Alright, so we have 9 Episode 2. 9 Episode 2 is where the plot really starts to pick up with the introduction of a main villain, or rather, main villain organization. It also helps that Sora is just such an entertaining heroine. She's the best little sister character I've read in the visual novels so far, with some of the funniest H scene and some of the funniest dialogue I've ever seen. Paper bags, man, just paper bags. Overall, Episode 2 of 9 was a big step up from Episode 1, and it's actually what kept my interest into the series, and I'm willing to continue more to check out Volumes 3 and Volumes 4 when Volume 4 eventually gets announced. Alright, so in terms of where I would put it on this list, I think I'll put it up in the A tier. The interactions were just very good with Sora. Next on the list we have Adabana Odd Tales. Adabana Odd Tales is one of Aniplex's newest visual novel titles, in addition to ATRI, which is next on the list. What's very unique about it is its Japanese art style aesthetic and short storybook adventures into Japanese folklores. It really stands out from your average visual novel, and I really appreciate that. While there are no standout moments, each little story chapter was consistently done with a nice ending that wrapped itself up in a little bow. I found their meta-narrative of the creation and exploration of stories and folktales quite interesting and very intriguing. It's a visual novel that's definitely under the radar, and I really wish more people would read this. I think I'll put that in an A. Alright, so next we have ATRI, breathtaking dystopian society of a world sunk under the seas. The production and artwork is just outstanding, with great visual direction, great soundtrack, and just overall great characters. The dynamic between the two lead characters is a strong selling point, along with providing a touching yet moving and motivational story brought to you by Kono Asta. ATRI is held back by the short length because there's a lot of factors in ATRI's world that make it so interesting. Additionally, the antagonistic force at the very end seemed a bit tacky in retrospect, but it served its purpose in bringing a conflict to light. ATRI is also the cutest robot girl. Now I would put that at an A. It's really strong, but again, there are some notable flaws, but I really wish it just got more content. I really wish it was just longer. Alright, so next on the list we have Baldr Sky. Baldr Sky has a great futuristic cyberpunk dystopian world, covering both the ethical and political aspects of human and AI interactions. The narrative gradually builds up through each route, building on top of each other as more plot details get slowly uncovered. It does run into the issue of input dumping loads of information on you and has repetitive long flashback scenes. There's also the 18+ non-vanilla scenes that I talked about briefly in my 5 visual novel tropes I hate video, which are easily the weakest part of the story. Baldr Sky, though, on a gameplay front, is super fun and has intense hack and slash gameplay. It's well worth the price tag and is even worth the purchase if the game is on a sale. It's a great narrative, and I've spent lots of time just playing around with it and both reading the story. In terms of rating, give this one an S. It's a great, phenomenal experience, and it's also the very first visual novel I reviewed on my channel. Alright, so next we have Flowers, Volume 1. Flowers is a Yuri drama that really focuses deeply on realistic character relationship and adolescent feelings and romance. The visual novel is on the calmer side of things, moving at its own relaxed and gentle pace with its tranquil atmosphere and production. While Suo is a great beginning heroine, she's not the most active protagonist, and as a result, Flowers Volume 1 has its dull moments and it moves at a lethargic pace. Almost boring to sit through sometimes. But for the type of character that Suo is, it's understandable. I'm waiting for a good mood to get into Volume 2 because of Erika. Erika is just, she's going to be a great heroine and I'm going to absolutely love her in Volume 2. But I'm waiting for a right time to get into it. So I would put Volume 1 of Flowers. I would put that definitely at A. Alright, so next we have Fureraba. Fureraba is a SME production title that leans heavily on the comedic side of the romance comedy genre. It's a very vanilla premise, as we see a boy attempt to find a girlfriend, and the visual novel follows their relationship together. It doesn't look special at first glance, but it understands its genre and premise very well. I would say it's a more realistic romance, but it tacks on those overly exaggerated anime comedy bits. It's very good for a vanilla romance, despite it not having any major hook besides SME's reputation for over-the-top comedy. I would probably put this at a B. It's alright, could have been better, but again, it's just lacking that uniqueness factor to it. Alright, so Grisaia, Phantom Trigger, Volume 7. I covered this for the people that are still keeping up to date with Phantom Trigger, the very few of us. It looks like the beginning of the end of the Phantom Trigger saga, but this installment has absolutely no weight to it. There's no impending consequences at all. Like with all the previous titles, expect tons of information on military procedures and gun breakdowns, and especially in this volume, the moral and ethical commentary on war. War never changes after all. For what was hyping up to be a final confrontation from the last volume, the explosion of a backstory volume it was, this one was very disappointing. Of course, I'm still gonna buy the next one. I'm 7 volumes deep in this, and I might as well finish it. So, I'm going to give Phantom Trigger a C. Alright, Higurashi and Higurashi Kai. Higurashi was one of my very first anime I've watched, and to this day, I consider the story of Higurashi to be very good. So when I read the Higurashi visual novel in preparation for the remake anime, it made me appreciate the series even more. The visual novel is just fantastic. It's my favorite visual novel to date so far. Higurashi stands out as a classic horror title for its psychological horror and unnerving atmosphere in the secluded, isolated town of Hinamizawa. Despite me not liking the unique Ryokishi art style, Ryokishi's writing followed by his sound direction is an impressive combination that amplifies the horror experience. Of course, to a general audience that knows Higurashi for its horror, the slice-of-life moments are the weakest part of the visual novel, as I angrily shake my fist saying that the visual novel's slice-of-life moments are the most critical portion of the plot. While Higurashi the question arc was all about the horror and mystery aspect, capitalizing on the psychological terror of paranoia and the grand scale of Hinamizawa's history and culture, Higurashi Kai is an in-depth and rich character drama that explores our characters' vulnerabilities, gradually building up to its bombastic conclusion, depicting a battle against two willpowers to defy fate and overcome a tragedy. It's the latter reason why I like Higurashi Kai over Higurashi's question. Honestly, both get an S in my book. I would rate Higurashi Kai over Higurashi, but that's just for personal taste. Alright, so next is Hoshizora no Memoria. This one is a mixed, complicated bag. There are some routes that are really great, other routes that are alright, and some other ones that are just, nah, I'm not sure about this one. In the words of a certain reviewer, the ending is paramount, and this visual novel is a case of its ending severely harming the work. The conclusion left an incredibly bad taste in my mouth. Both the true route and the mare route were just not that great. And it's a damn shame because I like the final character. What's worse is that there is a fan disc called Eternal Heart that expands more on the final character and mare, but it's not yet translated at the time of this video. So I'm just left with this slightly irritated feeling about the work. There are some nice character designs and background CGs, but it's plagued by that terrible 640 by 480 resolution. The childhood friend characters are great. Mare is annoying, Chinami is 5 times as worse. I want to give Hoshizora no Memoria more points, but I just can't because the flaws are just so apparent. See, it's either going to be a B or a C, but it's just a matter of mood. I think I'm going to put it at C mainly because of the flaws. It would be a B if I could look past the flaws, but I just can't, and that makes me sad. Alright, so next we have I Walk Among Zombies Volume 1. I Walk Among Zombies is a rare case in the visual novel medium with a zombie apocalypse plotline. If you look past the questionable morals of the main character, arguably more accepting if you consider he's an anti-hero, the world building is actually set up well for a zombie apocalypse story. Unfortunately, the characters themselves are less impressive in comparison, having very surface level motivation and characterization. It's another visual novel with potential in the grand scheme of things, but has a weak first volume. Extra points for being able to bone a zombie, I guess. A Walk Among Zombies gets a C from me. Alright, so next we have Iwaihime. This is what a Ryukishi visual novel would look like if it had a more modern look to it and a higher production value. So it's a little bit disappointing when Iwaihime chose to be more tamer on the gore and horrific scenes. I wish there was more of those. There's some really great descriptions of his writing in there, but there's no visual gore to it, and it's upsetting. I wish there was more development to the main character of Toei, the girl on the cover, as it leads to a strange ending of a romance that kind of still feels awkward. And to build on that, the ending was just something. It's not my most ideal ending, in my opinion, but it ends on a happy note, I guess. Overall, Iwaihime lacks the depth from Ryukishi's other works. It's still his writing, with notable high points to his prose, and it's certainly not bad, but Iwaihime is on the weaker end of the spectrum regarding his stories. So I would probably put this one at a B. Alright, so next we have IxShe Tell. If I had to summarize IxShe Tell, it is jealous catfights and sweet romances. The big downside for IxShe Tell is that the heroines start off loving the main character with no development leading up to it. And that's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not you pick this visual novel up. It starts off explosively, with all of the main heroines vying for the main character's attention, and it's pretty entertaining seeing them all compete with one another, but there's no development leading up to how they got to loving the main character. So if I were to rate IxShe Tell, I would probably put this at a B. Alright, next we have If My Heart Had Wings and Flight Diary. I have to give credit to this one. I started off hating Kotori in the very beginning, and then she turned out to be my favorite character in the whole visual novel. If My Heart Had Wings is such a motivational and inspiring visual novel with a great story, and continues being phenomenal in Flight Diary. It's Konohas's best work in my eyes right now. Unfortunately, it suffers from having multiple writers on a singular visual novel. Any route that's not Kotori's or Amane's is a considerable drop in quality. Asa routes was just underwhelming, Yoru's was just an extension of Asa's route, and Agaha's route felt so conflicting. It was really awkward trying to piece together what Agaha was thinking most of the time. It felt so out of character. And for a childhood friend character, I thought the romance was going to be like super easy, but it's just really weird, and I don't understand why. Anyway, If My Heart Had Wings and Flight Diary, it's very good, but only Kotori and Amane's route. So I have to put this at an A. It would be an S if the other routes were just of the same quality, but it's not, unfortunately. Alright, so next we have Loca Love Volume 2. I'll get the Volume 1 sooner or later, maybe. Loca Love Volume 2 is a vanilla romance that's actually a secret Nukige game. It's nothing too dramatic, it's light and fluffy, that's also a little bit sexy as well. Loca Love Volume 2 looks great, but that's all it is. The heroine's design is a big attracting point, but there's no actual meat to the story, despite the heroine's massive thighs. I found the reason for her personal conflict just kinda dumb. So, I mean, I would probably put that at a C. Making Lovers. SME's second localized title after Fureraba. It's more comedy focused of a romantic comedy, but it stands out as a more realistic take on adult romances, which is a rarity. There are some great girls in it. Karen just wins the award as the most relatable adult heroine, as a broke-ass adult out of college, bunk hopping just to get by. Making Lovers suffers from a lack of a main narrative in each of the routes, as it feels very slice of life, and you kinda don't know where the visual novel is going to end, but Karen is the only one that has an active goal narrative. I'm putting Making Lovers at an A. It would be an S, but SME also has that tendency to just be very over-exaggerated with its comedy, and that may not be people's cup of tea. Alright, so next we have OshiRabu. Another Yuri work that just purely focuses on romance. It's a certainly colorful art style, and unfortunately the Yuri feels very one-sided, and only at the very end does the main character reciprocate her feelings for the other girl. The 18+ DLC is a must-buy. It feels like an actual continuation where the main girl actually kinda loves the other girl, which is very weird to say, considering it's a DLC. Overall, OshiRabu is underwhelming for a Yuri work. It's an alright pickup for a short story, but there's way better ones out there. I give this one a B. Alright, so next we have Planetarian. Fantastic key work that shows that you don't have to be a long visual novel to deliver a deeply wonderful and emotional experience. People praise Clannad, Little Busters, and Rewrite, but Planetarium is still an equal contender to those. If you're ever in a mood for a good cry, pick up Planetarium. It'll make you feel in the span of a couple of hours. Yumemi and the main character are excellent contrasts in a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by nuclear warfare, where Yumemi is our shining star in the clear night sky, in comparison to our main character's cynical attitude. It's a great keyword and definitely a pickup if you can. I would probably put this one at an A. Alright, so next we have Real Life Plus. Easily the worst visual novel on this tier list. Poor visuals, generic stock backgrounds, basic template UI, no semblance of an actual narrative. It's an easy skip, D. So next we have Sadistic Blood. Sadistic Blood is an Eroguro work containing lesbian vampires with horrific, violent, and grotesque erotic bad endings. Despite not being a fan of the Eroguro genre, I have to give it points for being a decent production. Sadistic Blood knows what type of work it is, and it doesn't hold back. In fact, I'm a little bit disappointed that it isn't longer, because I like the characters, and strangely, even the villains. I'm also disappointed there isn't more Yuri scenes. I wanted Yuri, I did not get much Yuri. I'll put this one at a B. Alright, next we have Sakuranomori Dreamers. It's a more modern take on horror, combining its gore, bloody visual effects, and its overall atmosphere. Strangely, it feels like it's trying too hard to be scary, but it's still an overarching good horror mystery to follow. The heroine routes and romance are terribly tacked on though. The romance just feels like an afterthought. I really want the sequel though, just for the Madoka route. I really want the Madoka route. She's my favorite character in the visual novel. I would put Sakuranomori Dreamers at a B. Next we have Sankaku Renai. Sankaku Renai is a romance comedy work that knows its geeky audience, sprinkling lots of memes, anime/game tropes, and lots of comedy duo banter. Neko Nyan's localization has so much personality in it, it's absolutely hilarious with its references and fourth wall breaking. It's an added bonus to the lighthearted comedic nature of the visual novel. Sankaku Renai jokes around a lot, but it also takes some time to have our socially inept characters go through their social anxieties. It's a visual novel that brought more than I was expecting, and I appreciate that. The comedy is very specifically tailored though. If you aren't the biggest fan of anime/visual novels, this one might not be for you. I give Sankaku Renai an A. Alright, so next we have Senren Banka. Senren Banka is Yusuf's romance story with a Japanese folklore setting. The visual novel is quite well-rounded with a good cast of characters and a decent story. The main heroine routes were overall pretty great. There wasn't one that blew me away, but all of them were of decent quality. And of course, all the girls are very cute, as with most girls in Yusuf works. I give Senren Banka a B. Next we have Sisterly Bliss, a love story between two sisters. It's another short Yuri visual novel, and it has an affection meter that will determine what type of ending you will get, with two unique endings that may be a bit different from your usual Yuri visual novel. I give Sisterly Bliss a B. Alright, so next we have Summer Pockets. Summer Pockets is my first ever key visual novel I've read, and it was such an enjoyable experience, especially for a beginner into the key visual novel library. I think Summer Pockets is more tame in regards to its ability to make you cry, but it's still a key, feelsy visual novel, albeit on the more lighthearted side. As its most modern work, the production is great, from the summer background CGs and the OST. Going off of intuition, I think the other works are better than Summer Pockets, but it's still a very good work in the key library. I will give Summer Pockets a B. Alright, so next we have The Curse of Kudan. The Curse of Kudan is a fairly recent one I've covered, a Yuri mystery visual novel about folklore. Very cute girls, and they spend a lot of time having fun together despite the overall mystery. The visuals also look very sleek and stylish, but it's very middle of the road story-wise. Underwhelming individual character routes, bluntly written prose, and dull slice-of-life interactions hold this visual novel back. The last arc was interesting, but it took a while to get there. I give The Curse of Kudan a C. Alright, so next we have Totono, or You, Me, and Her. Produced by Nitro Plus, Totono is the visual novel that will quote-unquote end Bishoujo games. And to a more relatable note, a visual novel like Doki Doki Literature Club, but blows Doki Doki Literature Club out of the water in so many ways, from characters, production value, narrative themes, and overall experience. It's such an engaging meta-narrative and a great love story where it will take you on an emotional rollercoaster of a ride through its second run-through into its third, as it serves as a kind of thriller puzzle in order for you, the viewer, to solve. It also ends on such a brilliant ultimatum that will make you think twice about that final penultimate decision. Yumi and Her is very unassuming at first, but as you grow to get to know these characters, you start to get attached, which is a necessary building block for the latter half of the story that the visual novel is wonderfully praised for. It's moderately short, and I wouldn't have appreciated more slice-of-life moments between the characters to get to know them, but the pacing is absolutely critical for a game like this. Team Miyuki, by the way. I just want to get that out there. I give Yumi and Her an S. Alright, so finally we have Yukikoi Melt. Yukikoi Melt is the moe visual novel set in the winter season. I don't have much to say about this one. It's passable, but nothing strikes out as notable. I give this one a C. Alright, so now we've come to the award ceremony section of the video. The first category I would like to introduce is the best beginner category. These visual novels are for people who are new to the visual novel scene and would like a taste of what they can expect from the medium. I actually have two recommendations for this. I am selecting Planetarian and ATRI. These two I would recommend because of their ability to provide a moving, emotional story within its short time length. Both are set in a dystopian world, but the stories told are motivational and uplifting with great messages. The next category I would like to announce is Best Comedy. The winner of Best Comedy goes to Sankaku Renai. Sankaku Renai has a hilarious cast of characters that banter off each other well and has plenty of inside jokes that fans of anime and visual novels would appreciate. And now we have the category for Best Romance. I would give this one to Making Lovers. Making Lovers shows off romances set in an adult setting, depicting the characters in their normal, average, everyday life. It's quite a normal premise, but by having the cast outside of high school, it has a great sense of relatability and familiarity in their daily adult problems. The next category we have is Best Drama. The award for Best Drama goes to Flowers. Out of all the visual novels in this tier list, this visual novel has the most realistic depiction of human relationship and interactions. It touches on the more delicate and sensitive sides of people. Flowers is a great character drama in which our characters will have to come to terms with their own emotions and anxieties in order to understand one another. The next category I would like to introduce is Best Action Adventure, and this one belongs to Baldr Sky. In addition to its grand sci-fi cyberpunk setting and story, it also includes heart-pumping action fight scenes in its intense beat-em-up hack-and-slash gameplay. And now, the final category for my personal favorite goes to Higurashi and Higurashi Kai. It's such a great, phenomenal visual novel experience as it builds up its mystery and narrative to provide a cathartic, emotional second half. And this wraps up the tier list of every visual novel I've covered in 2020. Of course, these are my thoughts, and you are free to agree and disagree on my opinions. If you have any different opinions on these visual novels, I would love to hear them. But at the end of the day, I want to help you find something great to read and experience. Like I said before, all these reviews can be found on the channel if you want more of an in-depth look into these visual novels. All of them will be in the description down below. I hope I helped you find a visual novel that may have piqued your interest. Subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more. Check back every week for new content. For more of my thoughts, you can find me on Twitter at @TheAugustTale. That's it for today. I'll see you all next time.